There it goes.
And we are live. Myself, BushWhisperer, and Tall Tree. We are going to be continuing the discussions. Let's call it interview with a shaman, and talking about life and everything else in between. And I think we're getting towards the end of the stories. We must be.
I think so.
This is
I don't know.
Jeremy with me. For those of you that haven't followed, Jeremy is a member of the round table. We just got to get him back on the round table, but we're working on it. His level-headed, grounded, practical approach to cosmology and philosophy and spiritual sciences is a wonderful breath of fresh air. And I'm happy to be here and honored to be being interviewed by dear Jeremy.
Hey, good to see you again, man. It's been a little bit. Um, I'm wearing.
You look like a rock star.
There's supposed to be the blue light blocking glasses. I got them in last night, and um, they're kind of cool. They like make everything golden. So I'm just trying to mount. I'm just trying to keep them on when I get on the computer. But I stopped wearing sunglasses. I stopped completely wearing sunglasses quite a while ago because I just wanted I wanted as much sunlight to get into my eyes as possible, and it's pretty easy to do over where I'm at here in Washington on the coast. It's been the winter season, so it's been quite overcast. But even when the sun is out uh, and it's just bright and sunny outside, it's pretty easy to have your sunglasses on. But if you go somewhere like Colorado, uh, especially around like Denver or maybe like Estes Park or something like that, and that's like 6,000 feet up or something like that. Man, that sun is like intense, very intense. You almost have to wear sunglasses. I'm curious if you when so we were last talking. Um, we were talking about the Himalayas or the Himalayas, and what was it? A Mount Kailash or something like that that we were talking about the that crazy mountain that people circle around. What was that called?
Yeah, I wasn't on Mount Kailash. No one's been on
Kailash.
Mount Kailash.
Yeah, you weren't
I mean,
on
I
it. You
was
were.
on a place called Chota Kailash along my journey, but that's like it's the same shapes mountain, but it's in Uttarkashi, which is a small version of that mountain. But Kailashi was the mountain we were talking about, this mystical pyramid
Yeah.
mountain with all these anomalies, where even no, the state can't really research it. They're interested. They've sent out research teams, but the people come back getting old.
hmm Yeah. I remember you were telling me about that. It's a pretty incredible place. I I don't really I don't think that some places are supposed to be conquered or climbed or you know I think it was I don't know too much about this, but it kind of seems with Mount Everest, it's a little weird to me how commercialized it seems to have become to go there. In like climate, uh, you see these pictures of like a train of climbers just trudging up there, and then they get to the top and they get like what like a couple minutes or something like that to take a picture, uh, and then they go back down. Um, it's a little weird to me.
Yeah, the thing is, when you look at the old Vedic law, the Vedas is full of ancient technology. So in the Vedas, um, for example, I think it's mentioned in the Gita and it's mentioned in other scriptures that there was a robotic head. No, there was a robotic head discovered later on,
Yeah.
and nobody knew what this metal head was from. And a sage came and explained that it was the story of the Gitas, and there the Krishna finds this being that's not quite human. And this being has a directive to fight in the war, but keep changing sides. The directive of this being, programming, which is a metal being, I forget what it's called, is to be on one side until the other side's weak and then switch sides. Be on that side till the other side's weak and then switch sides. And to keep going until both sides are conquered. What kind of an AI programming would that be? And there's a story about how this being, the head gets removed, the body gets broken up into pieces, and it gets turned into a flying machine. And the war with Arjuna in the Gita, yeah, the Krishna war, is being observed by other beings from a distance because of this head flying through the air.
Wow. Where does that story come
And
from?
then they actually found the head.
They found the head.
Yeah, centuries later, a metal head, and
Yeah.
the king was like, "What is this? What's this metal head?"
Mm,
And one of the sages came forward and says, "No, this is written about in such and such. This is that being. That being was created, and it was Krishna that took the head off and had the head flying around." And we've got to understand that in the same stories, they've got vimanas, flying machines,
mm,
chariots that people sit inside and fly through the sky that can spit fire weapons that will destroy entire cities at a time and
mm,
pollute the earth. And these beings travel to different dimensions and they have the ability to extend life, like almost to what we seem, you know,
mm.
eternity. And then we see the story of the um, Sumerian cuneiforms, where the beings lived 100,000, 200, quarter million years in those stories. So all those ancient stories dovetail with two things: incredible technology and longevity.
Mhm.
But yeah, some
Um,
kind of AI system. So my guess is that that mountain has got remnants of some super ancient technology.
hmm.
Sort of like you can't go near a power plant because it can make you sick, right?
I don't know. I've never been near one. I guess you talking about
Yeah,
like
no,
a
no.
electrical power plant?
I'm talking about a nuclear power plant, for example. It would be
Okay.
fenced off. You would never be able to go there because there'd be places where you're not allowed to go
Mm,
because it could be dangerous. You don't know. And
right.
an ancient piece of technology could be leaking.
Mm,
There could be some kind of, it's old, it hasn't been serviced in how many hundreds of thousands of years. And unlike today, things are probably built to have long lives, you know, probably with AI systems that service itself. But even those systems can, I'm sure, run out of resource, which was supposed to probably be topped up every 10,000 years or something. And probably nobody went to top it up. So, to my mind, that's the most likely answer, is that there's ancient technology that's somehow embedded within that mountain.
yeah, that's man, it's very interesting. We still don't. There's so this is a tan. Oh, there it goes. Oh, I was just gonna say, there's the what is it called, like old world technology. There's so many YouTube channels that talk about this kind of stuff, but um, there was that very real thing where and older buildings, buildings built during the 1800s or even before that, where they would have the quote fireplace, and there would be a metal plate in there, and then in front of the opening there would be like these two metal pillars or something like that, um, and they never they didn't work by putting wood in there and burning. It was some sort of mechanism to draw down draw down or collapse power into this area that produced heat, and however that technology worked, um, the the plans for it, the idea for it, seems to have been just expunged from our memory. I don't think that the knowledge of it is gone. It's recorded somewhere. Um,
You mean like a
uh,
military secret database?
right? Yeah, something like that. Because there was, there's got to be a commodification of something. We can't. There's no money in free energy. So unfortunately, that's. I'm sure there's somewhere. I'm sure some individual, in the mountains in Appalachia or something, has it running, you know, and is doing just fine. Um, there's a guy. There's a guy that I know in Australia who almost on a whim built this. Um, God, what did he call it? Basically, what it does, it's a mechanism um, that you can hook up to a tailpipe, like a car tailpipe, and the exhaust goes through this mechanism. It goes through several different parts, but there's one part where it's two spheres, like this. Inside the spheres are two other spheres, and uh, the exhaust, after going through some sort of filter, goes in one sphere and goes around and goes through the other one and comes back out. And the whatever comes back out is like pure air or something like that. Um, that type of technology, I think, is the type of technology that you're talking about as far as the mountain goes, and this robot head, and it's probably the kind of thing that was figured out thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago and propagated, and then power does what power is going to do, and eventually wipes itself out, and now we're here with different types of power. But
It's very interesting. You talk
yeah,
about power. A lot of
yeah,
those old places, you look under the buildings and there were waterways moving
yeah,
water.
yeah.
And we're making hydroelectric power at the moment, but they are working on new forms of technology with bubbling the water. So if you can break the water into bubbles, the bubbles hold on the surface of them so much electrical potential, which you can rub them against each other and it can create a field.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, because part of this mechanism that I was just talking about, there's a part of it before it gets to the cylinders where uh, there the exhaust goes into it, and there's something that happens. I forget what it is, but it makes itty bitty tiny bubbles, and the bubbles have to be a very uniform and minuscule size. So it's interesting that you said that.
They're
I'll try
actually
to
researching
I'll
that
try to find the
officially.
video. I got the video. I have the video. I'll send it to you so you can see what this guy's talking about.
Cool.
Yeah, he's got the mechanism like right there. Now, something like that, um, whatever it is he built it from plans that he found. Like that information is out there, and you ask yourself, it's like, well, why isn't this 50 times bigger and applied to and why don't we have these things on top of power plants and all this kind of stuff, and or in airplanes
Or
or
just
something like that.
one in every room.
One in every room. Yeah, yeah. Um, so, anyways,
Keep it simple, man.
what's that?
Keep it simple. You don't even need cables. Just one in
Yeah.
every room. Do away with all those cables.
Mhm. Um, So I think you were talking something. I think you were saying something about Kashmir last time.
Kashmir, yeah.
Yeah, you were headed toward Kashmir.
Yeah. Um, I went to Kashmir. I loved Kashmir.
Mm,
Beautiful, very special place. Ladakh, up in the north of Kashmir. Um, I had the privilege of coming across the highest toilet in the world.
okay.
I was quite impressed. Well, the highest toilet in the world. Wow. You only do that once. I didn't get to go into the toilet though. Couldn't find the key. I was like, seriously? I've just found the highest toilet in the world and no one can find the key. Is there something wrong with this picture? Like, this is my bucket list. Come on. The highest motorable pass, lots of hot springs, very beautiful. I
Mm,
did find up in those high altitudes a lot of, okay, firstly, there's a huge military presence on both sides of Kashmir. On the
mm,
Pakistan side of Kashmir, where it's not so high, but still it's high. I mean, it's thousands of meters high. You have Pakistan, and you have continual shelling, or often you have shelling by the place they call Srinagar. And on the other side of Ladakh, you got the border with China, and you've got huge military presence being shown there on both sides. You know, India's side and on Chinese side, just to keep the peace, because apparently you need to have lots of weapons to stay peaceful.
mm,
Interesting concept of the modern age. The more weapons you have, the more peace you have. Not quite sure how that works, but so yeah, there's a lot of that. But the people was the thing that I was most curious about. Um, I was extremely disappointed, and that's a very big understatement with what passed for Buddhism up
mm,
there. Extremely disappointed. I mean, I'd experienced lots of different kinds of Buddhism. You know, I'd been in Kathmandu a lot, frequently experienced the Nepali flavor of Buddhism. I'd experienced the Indian flavor of Buddhism in India. I'd experienced Theravadan flavor of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. And then I got up there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new kind of Buddhism, more like the Tibetan form of Buddhism, like basically very intense, where you have these monasteries that are making loads of money right next to very poor settlements,
mm,
and just the upside down nonsense behind what's going on politically here. I suppose Tibet's fingers are probably in there as well. You know, it's very like a Tibetan kind of people. The people look Tibetan, if that makes sense. Their physiognomy and the language sounds more that way. So that was what sort of stood out for me in that area. But what was the most interesting when you look at the topography was the fact that up there you've got an ocean bed, and we went out into the deserts to explore. In fact, I got together with a few people and organized a party um, out there, because like there was no parties, and I was like, "What do you mean there's no parties? No, 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 no. We're gonna do a party. Who's the DJs? Come on, who's got decks? Who we had to find some DJs, some decks, and I networked everybody at this cool place where we used to hang out. It was like a huge, big restaurant where they did really nice lassies and smoothies and stuff. And took us about a week and a half, but we got like a crew of people together, and we went and did a party out there. We didn't make any money out of it. It wasn't to make money. It was just to do. I just wanted to have a skank up at like 3,500 meters high and see what it's like.
mm,
So we went out into the desert, and it was really cool, you know, to go and camp out in the desert for a couple of days, but like far out, and it's quite cold. And but it was a good time of year, so it wasn't too cold. And the further you go out, the more intriguing it gets. Like you literally are on a ocean bed,
mm,
and there's this Himalayan rock salt that I buy, this black salt. I don't have it in this room. I've got bricks this size
mm,
of black Himalayan salt. I got to take a hammer to it. And that I buy 10 kilogram bags. What's that? 25-pound bags of salt, but it's all black salt, like it's
mm,
from the Himalayas. And this stuff's like laying around on the floor all over the show.
Yeah.
and seashells and all sorts of crazy fossils from the ocean, and it's like it's a head trip to realize that you were at 3,500 meters. What's that? 10,000 feet, just about
Mm.
close to 10,000 feet altitude, and you're standing on an ocean bed. And whatever nonsense they want to tell you about the Earth being pushed up, nah, 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 nah. It's not like the ocean was up there. You get that feeling distinctly
Mm.
that this place has been high for a long time. This isn't just, and you can read about it in the Sumerian account as well. That northern place, which was high altitude, which was where the mud settled first. They had to wait a long time for the mud to settle. I think they had to wait in space like a century. Can't remember. They do give you the numbers in the Sumerian records. They had to wait a long time for the oceans to start to settle and for the earth to become compact again because it was muddy. And it was up there in the higher regions of the Indus Valley, which is what we're talking about here. That's Kashmir, where they settled down and started building their first settlements. And so today we call that the Anapan Society, which we have the oldest records of society on earth. So, and the Bible also mentions the Indus Valley, I think. I remember reading about the Indus Valley in the Bible when I was a kid. Apparently, these days it's been edited out, but I believe there have been 50,000 edits to the Bible. Yeah, 50,000. That's the number. 50 or 25,000, something like that. Different edits, lots of small edits. Few words here, few words there, few words there, few words there. And at every edition, they edit out so many things and they change words. And so they've done like 50 different editions of like, 1,000 edits in each edition. And there you go. Or 25 editions, however many editions they've done of the Bible to basically get it to what we know. But when I was a child reading the old, which I forget, St. John's. No, not St. John's. Anyway, the one of the earlier Bibles, St. Paul's Bible. No, it's not St. Paul's. I forget. I remember reading about the Indus Valley, and I kept asking my dad about this Indus Valley place. So it's always been in my unconscious. This Indus Valley, I've always known it was always a important place. Getting up there, you realize that there's a spirit about the place. There's a history about the place. And the mountains up there are absolutely it's a place to go. It's a bucket list place to go in the world, just to experience true mystic feeling, because you're out there and you constantly feel like there's something happening around you, but there's nothing there. If that makes sense. Like you look at the hills and they look like little buildings, like little spire buildings. You keep thinking there's people there, and you look and you shake your eyes. There's nothing there. It's like you just want to hallucinate,
Mm.
but like memories of the past,
Mhm.
of like what used to be here a long time ago. And you can see this. There was like societies here, and there was people there, and it's a very interesting place. I call it the roof of the world.
That sounds cool. Um, Gosh, I've been on India for a while. So when did you leave India for not for good, but when did you leave India the last time? Why did you decide to leave?
The last time I was leaving India was 2010. Late in 2010,
Mhm.
to be in South Africa was like the end of 2010, and stayed in South Africa. Could have been 2011 beginning, but that sort of time frame. Yeah. Why do I think I came for Christmas? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I came at the end of the year, if that makes sense. See my mom. I hadn't seen my mom in years,
Yeah.
and my ex-wife and myself were going through. Remember, I told you, just to back up. So we were there in 2010, and we were practicing meditation. We'd gone back to the ashram to
Okay.
to the one in Rajasthan,
Yeah.
Lila Sevli ashram, and we were practicing sadhana, and that was where she first got abducted.
Did you tell
Well,
that?
they tried to abduct her
Did we talk about
spiritually.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I told you about it,
Okay. Okay.
and she was out in the field, two,
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, naked,
Right.
and she was screaming, and that was the last time she meditated.
Hmm.
And then we went after that. I like I realized, okay, she's not comfortable here. Well, what do you want to do? She was like, well, what about going to Rishikesh? Because we knew a lot of people all around India, and everybody was migrating to Rishikesh. I said, okay, we can go and hang in Rishikesh. Rishikesh is fine. I can roll with that. I love the Ganga. Let's go. So we went to Rishikesh. I got a big bike, Enfield, and we chilled in Rishikesh. It was really good. And in Rishikesh, I was playing music every day.
Hmm.
So our room became like the hangout place for all the artists. It was pretty cool. So all the musicians in Rishikesh would come to Lakshmanjula, all the alternative people,
Hmm.
you know, like people like yourself, the rock star people. I'm a rock star. I'm here for rock star land, and they'd come and hang out at our place because our place, like everybody would say to them, "Oh, you must meet this couple. They're there." So everybody would send them to us. So every day I'd have like 15, 20 people, and we had a huge veranda by our room. We had like a massive room, like the king suite room on the top of this guest house called Bombay Guest House, and you were allowed to paint on the walls as long as you painted well. So like everybody would come there, and I'd be like, "Are you a painter? You're an artist. You can paint on the wall as long as you can carry your own. Otherwise, it's gonna be wiped off, basically." So people would like come and paint the walls and like, paint like beautiful art and Vedic art on the walls, and we'd just be jamming all day long. And of course, like some chillums would happen, more chillums than should happen would happen. Um, but that was like a really wonderful time. It was a musical time, just playing music every day for about 4 or 5 hours a day, different times in the afternoon. There were always people around. Then that started to become overwhelming for my ex-wife because there was just people around all the time. We were like the hub of the social hub, but because we were the social hub, we got connected to everybody who was like in India would come through Rishikesh and come and hang out with us. So you get to know everybody in India, which is pretty cool. All the travelers, all the Westerners, and we were gonna go to um, Kashmir, and some of our other friends, I mean, there were lots of groups of friends came through with bikes to go, and I was like, nah, I'm not ready to go. And she was like, we must go. And the monsoon was there, and I said, I'm not riding in the monsoon. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. Because I know where I'm going. I know those roads. I do not want to be on those dirt roads when they're all muddy. No, 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 no. We're going to slide off the mountains. I'm not doing it. So, um, it's all easy for her to like to want to do this, but I'm the one who has to look after the bike and make sure we're safe on that bike. I got to know what the bike can do, what we can do. And it's a fully loaded bike. It's a big bike. So anyway, we stayed behind in Rishikesh for a while, and I was enjoying Rishikesh when it was quieter because like the people were leaving. I was like, I actually really like this place. I love the energy of Rishikesh. It's got a very powerful vibration. It's a ley line hotspot. It's a good place to meditate. So like the people were leaving, and I was getting back into my zone, and that was where she was taken off the building in front of me, upstairs off the roof. Like literally, I followed her up the stairs, and I stopped in the top of the stairwell. It's like a narrow stairwell. You can't walk past me. And she was in front of my eyes, and lightning, big flash of light from the sky, and she was gone. And I got up on and I looked around. There's nowhere to go.
Hmm.
Right, you're a tiny little thing, and I looked everywhere. I searched everywhere. She was nowhere there to be seen. She was not on the roof. I looked on top of the little bubble where you come out of the stairwell. She was not there. I was like completely blown away, and that was when I found her. I think it must have been about 3 4 hours later in the forests, about a kilometer and a half away, and she didn't know she had missing time.
Hmm.
She thought she had like she was with me a minute ago, and I was like, no.
How did you know how
So,
to find her in the woods?
hey,
How did you know how to find her?
ESP.
Hmm.
I meditated, and I could feel her presence. I couldn't feel her presence for a long time. Then suddenly it was like she came online. It was like ping. I was like, hey, she's there, and I had a directional fix.
Interesting. So yeah, let's talk about this. What I don't care if we rehash it, but I remember you telling me. Well, you've told this story a few times, but I think what you were saying is that in the practice of the rigorous practice of your meditation, you are. It's not as if to me. Okay, from what I understand, it's not as if you're opening yourself up. You're not opening. It's an awareness that opens. Um, you still have autonomy, but when your awareness opens, you are can
Not
perceive.
alone.
Yeah, you can perceive these other presences. Excuse me. And if you so choose, you can listen to them or and be persuaded. And I think what you were saying is that she was doing this, um, and I guess I it sounds like the way you were persuaded to go into the pool as a very young child, she was persuaded to go up these stairs and and get taken away. I guess sounds like.
Yeah, the interesting thing was the first time it happened, it was attempted an astral abduction. And I intervened and I caught them red handed and I broke their technology. And then I was in my etheric body next to them and I was so shocked. I was like, huh? Physical beings in a craft with technology? I wasn't expecting this.
Hmm.
I was expecting extra dimensional beings from another plane of existence. I was like, physical beings in a craft? And then she was taken away in front of my eyes. Like, and I'm talking about, man, 10 feet in front of my eyes,
Yeah,
standing there, flash of lightning and instant flash of lightning. And then she's gone.
yeah,
And we are, just to give you insight into what we're talking about, the ceilings there were higher than my ceilings here, right? So here my ceilings are about, I would say, 12 feet. We're talking about being 40, 50 feet high and 40 something feet high in the sky.
hmm,
And it's a square. There's nowhere to go down.
yeah.
So it's something to think about. It's like a head trip.
So she
Well,
was
the
like,
next drop down is like is quite a high drop. Like maybe on the first floor there's a drop, but that's like about 25 feet down. And there's nowhere to go down there. You can't just
yeah,
jump 20, 30 feet. She didn't go down there. She was literally appeared in the forest,
hmm,
not knowing that she had been away for 4 hours,
yeah,
disoriented, like she was on drugs or something.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's very interesting because it sounds just like abduction, alien
Yeah.
abduction stories, and
But
it seems like you were in a privileged position to be able to actually witness the abduction because I've heard so many stories where a, a person is in bed with their partner, their husband, or their wife, or whatever, and the individual not being abducted is like dead asleep, and like nothing's gonna wake them, like they've been put under a spell or something. But you were like wide awake, and you're like, "What's going on?" You saw her dematerialize. Um,
and I don't think they saw me
yeah.
because I was still standing in the stairwell.
Okay.
But they should have had scanning technologies up. But
Yeah.
maybe my body interferes with the scanning technology
Yeah.
because the
So
frequency.
So what did these things want? What did they want from her? What did they want
But
with
this
her?
is the interesting thing.
Hmm.
It caused me to realize that many of the entities that people interact with are actually extraterrestrials
Okay.
when they're having meditation and spiritual experiences. So you see people seeing Jesus, having conversations with Jesus. People are having conversations with Archangel Gabriel. People are having conversations with this or that ascended master. It really opened my mind to what can happen because I actually met that angel face to face, and it was pretty impressive being. It's just
Yeah.
I'm a cocky bugger. I'm a,
Rewind a little bit. Tell how, what's the what are you talking
that
about?
was that was maybe 6 months before this happened, or maybe
Right.
6 months is an exaggeration. Maybe 4 months before this happened, we were in the
Yeah.
ashram,
Okay.
and at that point, we were meditating together every day, as we
Right.
did for 10 years
Hmm.
or close to 10 years. We never not did not meditate together, and that the last night that we meditated together, she was called out into the fields by a being that had been by a flashing light. Well, this is what she told me afterwards,
Okay.
because there were these beings in communication with her, and they said, we want to um what did they say they wanted to do with her? We want to materialize for you, but in order to do that, we can't do it next to Franklin.
Okay.
You need to go away from Franklin out in the field. So she went out trusting them, and in the night, my alarms went off because I had all these psychic perimeter alarms. Even though she was out there, somehow my alarms were triggered. And so I came almost into waking consciousness, but not fully awake. And understand, like when you're meditating a lot, you don't sleep conventionally. And I could see her. I was in my etheric body. I could see her standing over there with a light coming out of her head. Like she was looking up at the sky and there was a light coming out of her head. So I jumped there because you don't walk, you move, you think yourself somewhere and you're there, right? In the etheric body. So I jumped to where she was. And there was this light was coming out, and I was like very fascinated. Like, what is this light? This beam of light coming out of her eyes. So I went inside the beam of the light, and I traveled up the beam of the light. Right? I went inside the beam and beamed myself up.
Yeah.
And then I was face to face with the angel that she was talking with. She was there next to me. And I beamed myself to stand in front of her and face this angel. And this angel tried to telepathically tell me, like, yes, I am this, da, da. And I was like, yeah, bullshit, man.
What did it look like? What did it look
Hey,
like? What did it look like? Can you describe it?
it looked like a large humanoid being that was angelic. It had like wings. It was like I can explain it to you. You know those people who want to be beamed up by spaceships. You know those crazy like okay, you got these people that are like way out there. It's a religion now. What do they call
Okay.
themselves? Ishtar Command and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
You know Ishtar Command.
No.
So there's a lot of people that are like putting a spirituality onto these extraterrestrials, and they've got like lots of lore on it. And there's
Okay.
these artists that draw these beings. This being was like a kind of an angelic being, but like larger than life. It was a
Okay.
gigantic being, and it was radiating light,
Yeah.
radiating so much light and different rays of energy that it was like really impressive looking. And I was like, yeah, dude, you're like this looks too good on paper. Let's take a look under the shell. And I beamed my awareness into like a point, and I put my point to meet this being in its point with a name and see if this being can maintain that vibrational frequency, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And in the point of delving deep into that being, the being exploded.
Did you say a
into what I
name? Did you say a name?
yeah,
What does that
yeah.
mean?
Like I focused my mind into a sacred name.
A sacred name. Okay.
You chant these names silently,
Yeah.
and I became like a beam of light, a focus, like an arrow.
Okay.
And I projected this at this being.
Where
That's
does
like
this
how you, hey?
where does the sacred name come from?
It's essentially the tetragrammaton.
Okay.
So you hear it,
Okay.
you allow yourself to hear the sound, and underneath the sound, there's Om resonating. It's like a, it's like a vibrational field. I say it's a name, but it's more than a name. It's something else. It's
Sure.
like you start to intern a vibrational field,
Yeah.
and this being shattered into what seemed like weird kind of fragments.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. And that's when I saw immediately the being shattered, and then I saw into the craft in front of me. There was a craft, and that these three beings were like the ugliest, weirdest, from my perspective, ugliest looking, scariest kind of insectoid beings I've ever seen in my life. And
Okay.
my instinct was immediately like grab them, and I grabbed them.
Mhm.
And that's the story I told you before. But that angelic being, like, it didn't fool me. And when I've seen the art that these people that are like big into extraterrestrials do, of these holy divine beings and Archangel Michael and all of these things. Soraya sometimes shares some beautiful pictures and stuff. Some of those pictures are this is how these beings look. So a lot of these beings, these spiritual beings that these people are having spiritual experiences with, are actually extraterrestrials using technology. And it's like a kind of a, I think it's mercury. I think it's suspended mercury, because it's what it looked like. It looked like a mercury mask, but the mercury is suspended and it's moving, but it's moving in one place. It's not all over the show, if that makes sense. And there's like a handle, and they hold this thing in front of their face, and then their thoughts get projected through this spiraling mercury thing, and that's where the transmission becomes whatever they want to program it to be. Probably they program it to be an angel, and then they become this angel. It's sort of like taking an avatar form on the energy plane
Hmm.
that they can interact with us on. And when you open your psychic senses, you can see this energetic being, but the energetic being is actually a mirage created by an AI system from this physical dimension, where they are using technology to warp the astral field and project their consciousness into the astral field, but use this masking technology to mask their vibrations to become that being. But if you've got a good sense, if your gut is strong, you can feel something's off about this being. Like, it looks impressive, and some part of you don't want to challenge this being, but your gut says, no, there's something not right about this being. And me being just me, I'm like, let's do it. Like, I'm up for the challenge. Let's go. Yeah. Like, so I ran. I've used to run towards fear before I was a parent. Like, if something made me afraid, I'd run towards it, because I was like, okay, let's do this. But so anyway, that's what I really realized, was like, wow. And then the next time it was physical abduction. So I think a lot of these spiritual experiences of the new age are got to do with this.
Yeah. Let me before we get to your wife naked and screaming in the field. Well, there's there's all these thoughts that are sort of coalescing in my head, and it's coming to something that I don't know who's talking about it, um, but just the other day, I was listening to a podcast, which led me to look up some stuff. And you've heard of Elon Musk's Neuralink?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't even go there, but yeah.
Yeah. So. I don't know if this was actually Neuralink, but it was an individual. He might be paraplegic, um, but he had some sort of electronic mechanism or chip or something like that implanted in his brain, and he's able to um, play video games with his mind. Basically, move the cursor or whatever it is on the computer interface with his mind. Okay, so you can any thinking person uh, can see where that would go, or where it could go, or where it's already gone. Where um, imagine having something like that in your head and hooking it up to nuclear powered or volcano powered AI, super AI networks and whatnot. Um, but and so then there's the experience that you were talking about, where you have um, these creatures uh, in a craft, and do you think that these were what you were looking at were actual physical things, like these insectoid things existed in space? And
Yeah,
yes, okay, and they
I
were
could
used,
sense the craft was physical.
okay,
You
and they
know, when
were
you're on the etheric field and you're standing in front of a wall, the wall is different to the other substance. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, say that
Like
again. I was talking.
the etheric as opposed to the astral. Most people, when they think they're astral projecting, they're actually etherically projecting. And on the etheric field, if I'm in my etheric body now, the walls of my house are still here, but I can see through them and I can project through them, but the walls are still here.
Yeah.
But they have a different texture
Mhm.
to the rest of the etheric plane because they're physical. You can
Mhm.
see that it's a physical object.
Mhm.
Where if you come across a being on the etheric plane that's not a physical object, it's got a different frequency, and
Okay.
you can see that.
Okay. Um, okay. So you got these creatures. They're in this craft. They're physical. They're meat space, um, and they're interacting with your wife through these other planes, these etheric and astral planes. And you are traveling etherically and encountering them etherically and manipulating them etherically. So there is this these creatures, whatever they are, they have broken through the membrane of physical and the other side of reality, the etheric, the astral, and are going about their business, trying to abduct souls or whatever the hell they're doing. Um, so we're doing that too, like humans on planet Earth or whatever this place is. We're like doing that as well. We're like headed there with our technology, with AI and Neuralink and that kind of thing. But but you were also talking about these experiences that people have that you think maybe maybe illusions or are illusions, you know um, and what so I was I'm not it's not fear or anything like that, but I like there's something nagging at me here, which is like there's not enough education on these different levels of existence and how they mesh with or work with the technology side of things. You understand what I'm saying? Like we get Neuralink in our heads, right? Hooked up to the gargantuan AI. Somewhere, somewhere figures out how to work with the etheric and the astral. We don't know this being linked to the Neuralink, but other people, the AI has figured this out, and so now we're not only being controlled like physically, like the other planes of our existence are also being manipulated, and we have no idea. We can't know, and it might even the thing inside our head might even be blocking us from being able to have that autonomy, have our autonomy back. You kind of see where I'm getting at. So that's why even with the paraplegic or the blind person getting an implant that helps them see or move, I don't mean to be an asshole, but even that is like it feels off. It feels like somehow wrong to me.
Well, it's like this. That person could be taught how to use etheric eyes, and they could learn to see in the ether. They'd be able to see through walls. They'd be able to see people far away. And they'd be able to project their consciousness over there and look at something over there and be here. So possibly putting that implant in their brain, make sure they never get to do that.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how I don't know if any of this you know short of like actual war, the sabotage and destruction of servers and infrastructure and supply lines. You know what I mean? Literally war. I don't I don't know how. Well, I don't see this thing stopping. I'm not gonna say I don't know how to combat it. Like,
Honestly, this is what disturbed me as a little child. Because the war that I saw, that I kept seeing, and I kept getting really freaked out by, was a war of people fighting against people that were half machine and fighting against machines. And it looks like a kind of a civil war. Maybe at some point they push their hand too far and people say no. And they start putting people on aircraft carriers. You see, they've built these aircraft carriers, right? They could just load lots of people onto oil tankers and aircraft carriers and take them wherever they want and do whatever they want with them. Now, no, that's a big ask. That's a big thing. Like, things have to get pretty bad for it to get to that point. But the people that aren't playing ball, like for example, the system in China. What happens to people when their credit rating, when their social credit score drops to a certain point? What happens to them?
they can't do anything. Starve in the streets, I guess. I don't know.
So at some point, when there's a lot of people with a low social rating score, what would they do? Would they just
Band
leave them to
together.
out the street and starve, or would they round them up,
Oh yeah, right about.
put them onto ships?
Yeah,
And would that cause suffering with their social rating scores dropping to get together and say, time for rebellion. And so, it's a heavy story. It's like that film, The Terminator, all over again, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I you know
Nothing short of that, basically, is what you're saying, right?
something like that. It's not going to be that. That's a movie, and I don't I don't live in a movie, but um, there's this idea. I don't know, some of the some of the people that I know, we're in this period of time right now in America with Donald Trump being a president, and doing all these things, seemingly to help our country out. Um, and there's a lot of things you can point to and be like, well, this is good, closing out the border and removing the illegal aliens, and going after this money stuff is good, and everything like that. Um, but to me, it feels like they're all the things that they're touching upon, and trying to fix are these like incredibly deeply entrenched systems. And it's like we have yet to see um, the real power manifest, in a way where we all feel it explicitly. If you know, it, um, it's real interesting. It's a real interesting time to be alive.
Thank you. We're live again. I just made sure that I've got space for this
Oh, okay.
recording.
I was like, oh, he's gone. I was getting too dark. So to quickly to go back to the story with the little space gremlins. Um, so you had so I remember you were saying that you had them in your clutches and you were about to drill through them, but your wife was calling out to you to not do that.
Yeah, it was a big mistake, retrospectively. I had all the information at my fingertips, and I had the matriarch, and I was boring into her mind, and I would have seen all of her agendas. And if I'd seen those agendas, I would have seen all the agendas. And I
What do you
knew
mean?
that as I started boring into her mind, I started feeling her panic,
Mm-hmm.
fear beyond any fear that I could imagine. And I realized that fear wasn't of me. I was like, who the hell is she so scared of? She's really scared of someone, and it's not me, because she knows that I'm not actually out to hurt her. I just want to know what the hell you're doing with at that time she was my wife. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know what's going on. Like, you come here and you mess with my wife. Hold on, we got to talk, buddy. What do you think you're doing? Why are you here? Where are you from? That was my mission, right? I didn't want to do any harm, but there was this panicked fear, and my ex-wife saw me grab them in thrall and drill into them. And afterwards, when I spoke to her about it, she so after the whole thing happened, um, she was in a mess because I ran out to find her, and we were both naked in this field, and she was sobbing, and she was saying to me like, "Who were those three? Oh my God, who were those three? They were in a craft. Who were they? What was that angel? How did you know that angel wasn't real?" She kept asking me because she had seen it all, right? And then I said to her, "Calm down." And I took her back. We sat down. I said, "Tell me exactly everything. How did this start?" And so she told me her version of the story. And it was, she had experienced exactly the same as what I experienced, right? But she added in the beginning what she had said, because I didn't want to. I wanted to see what she had seen because I felt her presence behind me, and I felt her thoughts saying to me, like, "Is that right?" Because like I was using whatever. I was taking control. I took control of those three beings. Sort of like if someone breaks into your house and you get them into a lock and you pin them the hell down and you got them pinned down and now you want to see their ID. Who are you? You take your ID out of your pocket and look at who you are. And I let a European woman with British neurosis dissuade me from doing what I felt instinctively was the right thing to do, which I should have done. Because, yeah, I was infringing upon free will, but free will only goes so far. If someone throws a punch at me, their free will is their free will. My free will is to deflect that punch and to throw them over my shoulders if I can, right? And that's not interfering with their free will because they threw that punch, if that makes sense. It's their consequence. If someone attacks you and they get hurt, well, it's on you, buddy. Why are you attacking me? You know, it's not the same as me doing you harm, kind of thing. And I didn't intend harm, but it's the one thing that I regret that I didn't follow through with because I was so close to getting through her defenses.
And what do you think was on the other side?
I could sense it. I couldn't see it clearly, but I could sense that there was a group of beings that she was really afraid of. She was working for someone,
Uh huh.
a different race of beings, another group of beings that she was under. And
Yeah.
she was doing her job, part of something bigger. And there's a big agenda, and us humans are not supposed to know what's going on.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to know the truth.
So what's so let's go there. Like what were these other beings and what did you get a sense of that we're a part of? Like what's beyond the cave?
I just got the sense that there was an extremely vicious and cruel, narcissistic group of beings that would hurt her and hurt her group badly if she disclosed any information
Mm,
or if it got out through her. She would be punished severely, very severely.
mm,
And there was terror in her. So the only sense that I know is that that group of beings out there that's behind this, they're a nasty bunch. And I found, it took me years, but I found this being. I can't remember which grimoire I found her in. These beings, this order of beings. They're a terrestrial group of beings that have been on Earth for thousands of years. They're subterranean beings. They live in the Earth.
mm, mm,
Go figure. Insects like ants.
I've heard. I mean, I know what I know what you're. I think I know what you're talking about. Like I've definitely on the internet read things about insectoid creatures.
There's something to that.
Yeah.
I'd never read about it on the internet.
Mm.
I'd never. I found it in a grimoire. I had a whole lot of grimoires that I was looking in, and I found a picture of one.
What about yeah? What was this grimoire? Can you describe it? Like, how
I
did
can't
you get?
remember which one it was.
Okay.
I've had a lot of books.
Yeah. What language
I've
is
had
it
a
in?
lot of books over the years, like a lot of books. It could
Was it?
even be somewhere, even in Agrippa's works, one of Agrippa's works, maybe.
Yeah. Agrippa.
Could be. I can't remember what works I saw it in, but it was. I was looking for this being and I couldn't find it. And one day I was looking up something else,
Yeah.
and I stopped, and there was this picture. I was like, "Holy, it's one of them!"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh wow!" And I read up a little bit about this being. I was like, "That's what I saw. That's the one." Someone had drawn it from like the
Oh,
1700s or whatever, you know.
hmm. Hmm.
And
So they used to come to the surface.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I know nothing. I just saw that being in there, and it was just mentioned that this is an ancient order of beings that are subterranean species from Earth.
Don't the Native Americans talk about ant people?
Yes, that's
No.
another place I've heard about it. Ant people. And that's exactly who we're talking about. We're talking about ant people. They were very scary looking beings. I wouldn't want to meet one in a fight because they look like they're like scary, like ant like, but psychically they're very weak.
How are
Like
wait? So
basically,
how they're very weak? Okay, but technologically they're very strong.
yeah.
Mm.
But they need their technology to augment. And as human beings, we can short circuit all of their technology with our thought power. And then we rule that zone because we don't need augments.
We don't need
We are
what?
so incredibly powerful. We don't need augmentation.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. If
We
any,
are
if
so powerful. This is why we need to be augmented to weaken us
right, exactly. I mean
because we're too powerful. We just
that
don't know the scope of our power. There were three of these beings, and I took them into a grasp like they were nothing. And like I could probably face 50 of them and put them into thrall
yeah,
just with my will.
yeah. That's some
Do you
wizard
see what I
shit,
mean?
man.
Like,
That's some wizard shit. That's the human wizard shit that I'm talking about.
yeah,
That we're
yeah,
capable of.
yeah.
And I'm not saying.
I didn't
And
even
look,
think about it. It was
well,
instinct. It was
yeah,
like blocking a punch.
yeah, yeah, yep.
So I
It
think
seems
that's
like
what
a
that whole
very
technological agenda of transhumanism is about, is to disconnect us from our true power. And this is why I'm saying, like, blind people could probably be trained to see without eyes.
I mean, yeah, dude, that should be like a whole monastery of blind
Yeah,
people going in there and seeing through walls.
yeah.
Not just walls, seeing like not just walls either. I mean, like, come on, if you can go anywhere, then you can know you can know the truth. You know the truth of things. Um, God. So okay. To go back to the original the abduction, and I'm not. You might have asked this, but or you might have answered this, but what were they looking for from your wife? Like, why just is it just an energy source that they're able to tap into, and that they'll exploit it if they can?
I can only tell you what I thought, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But she was getting close to a breakthrough, spiritually and psychically.
Okay.
And man, this woman, right? So she was with me and she flew into meditation. It was like a part of my life. She flew into it, right? Then when I wanted to go like off to the wilds, she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come." And then I was like, "Okay, well, we'll find an ashram. You can settle in an ashram. Then I'm gonna go off and live in the wilds." We went into an ashram and she trained hard. She 2.0'd it up. I mean, 2.3.0'd it up fast. She went from somebody who didn't meditate to someone who meditated an hour a day, to someone who meditated 2 hours a day, to someone who meditated 3 hours a day, to someone who meditated 4 hours a day, to someone who meditated 5 hours a day, to someone who meditated 5 hours a day, did yoga for 1.5 hours a day, spent 35 minutes drumming, spent about 45 minutes writing poetry, and spent about 35 minutes practicing playing guitar and writing music and channeling. And then, you know, living like a kind of like really, what do you call it, ascetic lifestyle, being disconnected from other people, being on your own, being in long vows of silence. We wouldn't talk to each other. We would communicate telepathically. And so she went from being That to being that quite fast, being the next thing fast, being she flew up fast. I had been doing this for a long time, right? And she had this like mission to catch up with me, and she worked hard with her yoga. She worked hard with her drumming. She became a highly accomplished drummer. Like, I mean, highly accomplished drummer. I was one of the recognized drummers in the UK. It's like, one of the top drummers, and she was in that group of top drummers very quickly. And so she could come play with me if I was doing festivals or gigs or stuff. And so she was really a good drummer. She was really digging deep. And when you spend so much time in meditation, so she'd be meditating like, I don't know, 1,500 hours a year, more, you know, maybe 1,600 hours a year. So after 5 years, she's done like what, 8,500. So she had clocked 10,000 hours. And it might not sound like a lot, but all these people writing those new age books about spirituality, they haven't even clocked 1 or 2,000.
I don't know. I don't know a single. I mean, other than you, of course, and we've only talked over the computer and the phone, but I don't know anybody else who comes even close to that.
Yeah, so she was hardcore, man. She was hardcore. And she went to live with me in the jungles, barefoot, silence, where we wouldn't talk. And, you know, um, facing death with me on a numerous occasions where she's trying to panic. And I say, just hold my hand and relax. Close your eyes and just go into Zen with with a group of charging bulls, for example. Or we're going to walk through that buffalo stampede. She's like, what? Like, she's like, I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to just
That's
hold my
that.
hand, relax. We're going to do it.
That's that shaman
Face.
shit. Hey, it's there's lightning outside. Oh, fucking thunderstorm. Let's go swim in the ocean.
So but that's like faith
Mm.
of okay, I'm going to face the potentials of not being alive. If Stein wants to interview me about shamanism, about what it is to be a shaman. She was a natural born shaman. It's people that have that kind of faith that are prepared to go that far. Because like they want to know like, well, what differentiates a shaman from not a shaman? It's simple, man. How committed are you? How much flesh do you put in the game? That's really what it is.
Mhm.
And she put flesh in the game. So she was an exceptional human being. And that means that she represents a risk. In the same way that I was a big risk to them, they wouldn't dare come near me because what happened. That's why they wouldn't dare come. That's why she had to go away from me. They were a little bit scared of me. When you get to a certain point of threshold, they got to watch out for you. It's sort of like somebody who's training in martial arts, and the gangsters don't want you to train past a certain point because it gets to a point where they better not mess with anyone near you because they're going to see their butts, right? Because you got the potential to do something. It's like that, but like on the psychic planes, where once you get to a certain point, these beings can't mess with you so easily. Or not just any beings. I'm not saying I don't know what beings there are. How many? There must be a lot of different. There must be a lot out there. My experience, I've experienced a lot of different kinds of beings, but she was getting to that point where she was going to break through, and maybe they didn't want her to get to that point. And I think they go around the world looking for people. This particular order of beings. When people are getting ready to make a spiritual breakthrough, they will appear, and they will make sure that you don't have that spiritual breakthrough.
Okay. How? What was that? What was that angel saying to her? What was it? What was it? What were they doing with that angel? What was the message she was getting from that thing?
That I can't tell you.
Okay.
But she was telling me that it was teaching her great insights
Okay.
about the world and about life. So if you get, let's say you're a great builder, right? You're an amazing builder, architect, and someone gets into your teaching curriculum and they teach you to like do your foundation a little bit wrong, then all your buildings are going to collapse and you will think that you're a useless architect and you'll resign being an architect and you'll go and do something else, right?
Okay.
Like that. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just stretching my just, just put
Cool,
my
brother.
foot. Yeah, just stretching out my leg a little bit. Sitting on that chair for a while.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my impression. My impression is that they don't want people to awaken past a certain point. And I think this is why you have so many people that are awakening spiritually and they're getting connected to all these extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can see it. So you're getting to this point where you're so spiritually attuned, like you say, you're on the threshold of that breakthrough, whatever that is. Um, and the dragon at the gate appears to negate you. And in this instance, this it was this projection of an angel that was giving your wife a download. And I mean, I can see how that would be so enticing. You know, if you get to this point, you're just like bigger than life, like freaking angel, like right in front of you, like talking to you. It's talking to me. You know what I mean? Like, holy crap! And what I'm sure that the voice is the most beautiful thing you've ever heard and seen. But okay, but that's an illusion. In this case, it was an illusion, and so you just you just got to be spiritually enough aware to just be like fuck you, like you said, like fuck you, asshole. What do you got beyond this? Okay, and then the fucking illusion breaks, and there's a little spaceship with bugs in it. You grab them. So that's I mean that's I don't. It doesn't sound like you were taught that. It just sounds like that's what came instinctually. But with her, did she need? Was she missing out on something instinctual or some knowledge that would have helped her get past the illusion? Or was that your whole purpose for you being there for her?
I often thought about that. She needed validation from her father that she never got. But I could and would never give it to her. I was like, I didn't want her to. I was like, you gotta get validation within yourself. Like external validation will never. It's like giving a hungry person a fish till they're hungry again. Rather give them a net. I don't know if that makes sense in this context, but that was her big problem. Was she never got the validation she needed from her father, and that was her constant thing in her life. And her mother didn't want us together, and her mother had played on her vulnerability some years before that. to the point where her mother had tried to convince her that her father wasn't her real father, but it was her
That's
real father.
yeah, that's some dark shit right there.
That's some dog shit, man. So her mother, I didn't want to talk to her too much about her mother. I didn't want to say too much, but like really, her mother was a complete and utter bloody basket case.
Yeah.
What kind of a mother does that with a child? And then 3 months later, we see she comes to me having had this great revelation. Her mother's finally opened up to her. And she's telling me she always knew it wasn't her real father. And I stopped her in her tracks. I said, that's nonsense. I can feel your resonant vibrations of your DNA, and I can feel his DNA, and I can feel him in you. She's lying. And so she didn't know what to do with that. And it took her like a month until she confronted her mother. And when she confronted her mother said, oh, yeah, I was just joking. And like this had caused her to have like whole catharsis and breakdowns and emotional. And maybe her mother thought she was helping, but anyway, like her mother was a bit weird. Like she was an extremely neurotic woman that had overprotected her daughter, like really much. And then her father, I think her mother had overprotected the daughter to the point that she had excluded the father. So the father felt excluded, so he stayed excluded. And so there was this rift between, and then at some point he was commenting on how nice and attractive her legs were when she was like 13 or something. And that made her feel more weird. So like there was a lot of weirdness in that family. I mean, every family's got its thing, right? But her father was a bit weird. And so her mother was like a complete nutcase.
Gotcha. Hmm.
So I think she was battling against that.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what they used against her. And oh, by the way, when she came back, so after she saw that, the fear of God went into her heart. She didn't want to open her sight. She just wanted to forget. She wanted that that blue pill.
Oh
And
wow.
so that was the end of her ever. So the last time she meditated was 5 hours before those beings came.
Mhm.
And just to put that into perspective, the 300 days before that, she had meditated 600 times.
Yeah.
And the 3,000 days before that, she had meditated 6,000 times.
Mhm.
And that one night happened, and she didn't meditate again. And that immediately put like a rift between us of like, we were so psychically in tune because we used to meditate together every morning and every evening. We were so in tune, resonant energy. It started to grow distance. And then she started changing, and I watched her changing, and she was becoming like a chameleon. She was changing with these people we met, and she was changing with those people we met, and she was like looking for like who to be.
Oh
And I
wow.
observed this, and then she became dishonest. And then that night happened where she was off the building. When she came back, she was a different human being.
How did
They
she
had
come?
done something to her.
Oh wow.
She was never the same again.
Yeah. So okay. So she got abducted after the angel experience.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
a number of months after that.
Wow.
4 months,
And
4 months,
do you
four,
think the
5 months.
same? Yeah. Do you think the same bugs came back?
They had a very small craft. There wasn't much room in that craft. Where are they going to put her?
Well, it doesn't sound like. Yeah, it sounds like they dematerialized her.
No, the craft moves like it seems to move by teleportation. But my point is that like where would they put her in that craft? It
Yeah.
wasn't one of those crafts.
Right.
That wasn't their mission. You know, like if you are a military reconnaissance, you go with a small little reconnaissance craft.
Right.
You can't pick up POWs or anything in that craft. It's just recon.
Mm.
Then you recon, then you come back, and then you send out the artillery or the whoever.
Okay.
It's like it was like that's like a recon craft designed to do that job, and that's
Yeah.
its job. There was no other rooms in the craft. It was just that one. It was a tiny craft.
Yeah.
It was a disc.
Mm. Yeah. So she got a little broken, or something happened with that that allowed them to come back.
So listen, my next girlfriend that I'm with,
You know.
she also had psychic abilities. She used to hold the other children's hands in school and tell them secrets about themselves. And like and things that would happen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so she was also um she actually reminded me a lot more of Eleanor, my current girlfriend, who's like really grounded and solid and together.
Yeah.
Um but with her there were lizard beings.
There were what?
Lizard beings.
Lizard beings. Okay.
Yeah. And they would be watching her.
This is your ex-wife?
No, the next girlfriend,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
years later,
Yeah.
2012 in the year to 2012 to 2015.
Mm.
And my ex wife and myself broke up in 2011. And so my next girlfriend had different beings, and she was also very open,
Mm.
but she could see. I was able to like I could pick up a crystal ball and I could sort of move it, and then you can see the being in there. And I could show her the crystal, and she'd be, "Holy shit! It looks like a lizard." I'd be like, "Yeah." She could see them, and then she'd draw. She could draw them. She was an artist,
Mm.
and so like she was learning to scry them and look at them. Um, and her father had. She was the one whose father had done things to her,
Right.
and her mother was also weird in a different way. My mother wasn't a basket case in the same way that my ex-wife's mother was, but she was very controlling, extremely controlling woman. And her father had been like an alcoholic at times or something, had drinking problems. Maybe not an alcoholic, but he would go out and get drunk, get like blind drunk and do like crazy. I don't know. So I think they get to us through our bloodline and our family lines.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like parasitic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're different orders of beings that work with different people. See, my ex-wife was looking for a divine divinity, so that's what she got. My ex-girlfriend was like, she was afraid of these lizard beings. They would be like trying to get into her head with fear. You see, so it depends on your emotional disposition as to which beings will be working with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know the agendas. I can only
Well,
guess.
I think the agenda is just, uh, okay, does the parasite need an agenda, or is it just exist?
There's an agenda. I'm sure of it. And like, for example, the parasitic financial oil moguls
Mm.
in the world. Um, they just exist as financial parasites on the planet, right?
Mm. Yeah.
but they definitely have an agenda. It's about getting control over all the oil.
Yeah. I mean, an agenda implies a beginning and an end. Um,
I think that's where I mean the agenda is about getting the monopoly,
the monopoly, yeah, the monopoly of power.
and so there's an agenda to get the monopoly and power over human beings. That's what I think this is all about.
Yeah, because it's like there's a finite place, like with the oil guys, right? They're like, there's a there's oil out there. There's a finite amount of oil, and I want all of it. And it's like on with humans, it's like, well, there's theoretically a finite amount of people living alive right now, and they want control of all of them. And it's like,
And
how long does that take?
I've always, in my gut, thought that AI is related to the things that we're talking about.
Dude, me too, man. I'm right there with you.
I just felt it. Like I can't logically explain like why I think it and feel it, but I've always felt it, and I've always felt that all the technology that we're moving towards is somehow connecting us to this more.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, there's very obvious parallels with, things like evil, um, and this agenda. See, it sounds like this agenda, it's like it's a long agenda. It's a very long agenda, and it never stops trying to like dig its way in. And the digital, the it it acts on us where it gets into our minds. You know what I mean? Like the phone, and the computer. This thing will manipulate you through your eyes and your own manipulation, and then get into your brain and get your brain to rewire itself to release certain chemicals, that make you keep on wanting to go for it, to go for this thing and be around it and be influenced by it, and it's like another way for that higher order of being to like drill into us, and gain control, and whatever small amount of control it can get, it'll get.
So yeah, that's when I realized I had to leave India. Long explanation. The long version.
Yeah,
And because the distance between myself and her was growing,
yeah,
and she was like, "I got to get out of India. I got to get out of India. I got to get out of India." I was like, "Okay." And it just so happened to be like going into like it was middle of winter in the UK,
oh wow,
and I was like, "Well, I'm going to go to Cape Town.
okay, yeah.
I haven't seen my mom in a long time, and damn, it's like it's summer in Cape Town.
Mm.
It's like beach town, beach weather.
Yeah, that sounds
Where
really
do you want
nice.
to be?" So she was like, "Yeah," and came to Cape Town. And because I at that time still wanted us to be together, and I still had hope that she would heal
Yeah,
and that the trauma would settle. Oh, and she had lied to me about a couple of things,
yeah,
and I'd noticed the lies, and she was trying to like I don't know, like get in with this one guy she was chatting to, and he was a friend. I knew him. And then when we got to Cape Town, I don't know if I told you this story. Anyway, here it is. She started smoking cigarettes. I was like, okay, your choice. I didn't like it, but it's what she wanted to do. And I would only smoke a bit of weed, like sometimes, you know, but then outside. And we were staying in a place, Claremont, which is like in the southern suburbs, but like, so the house has got like huge perimeter walls and electric fences over the walls, and a big electric gate with electric fences. Security. You would get people jumping over the fence and like taking your stuff, maybe if you didn't. And it is, after all, South Africa. And Claremont, it was close to a place where people had like lots of routes of transport access. So it would be like a good place to break in, and a place where people have a bit of money. You know, not a lot of money necessarily. Southern suburbs is like expensive. Basically, the southern suburbs are the most expensive place in South Africa to live. And so it's like California.
Parts of it.
It's like the beach sides, California, southern suburbs. It's like those places. Nice suburbs, nice place. Anyway, so one night I wake up and she's on the computer, and I'm wheezing. I'm like, what's wrong? Why can't I breathe? I'm like choking. And I noticed, like, as I'm eyes are opening, that okay, the lights are on, it's bright. Had a mosquito net around the bed because she liked mosquito nets. Anyway, she wanted one, so we put one on. And like, I lift this mosquito net off, come out of the mosquito net, and I see her there, and she's typing, but she's got this tense arms, tense face. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Is she okay? Like in some kind of a weird trance. And the place is smelling so bad, and I'm coughing. And first I get up, and I notice our bedroom door's open. We were sharing this house with an Indian couple on the other side of the house. And then there was another couple, Mark and his girlfriend, but they had gone away. He had a lodge in Africa, like a wilderness lodge.
Mm.
And then there was another lady who had a flat at the back part of the house, which was a granny flat, but it was like a self-catering, like a nice little flat she had for herself. And so I walked through the house, and I noticed all the lights were on. I was like, this is weird. And then I went and I found the front door wide open. I was like, the front door was wide open. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, because, you the security, you lock the front door. Living where we were living, we had to be conscientious.
Yeah.
And I was like very shocked at what was going on there. Was the gate open? No, the gate wasn't open. But the front door was like unlocked. It's ajar, widely open. I'm not sure why the front door was open. Maybe she had gone out into the garden to look at the sky or something. So then I came back into the room, and I walked in behind her, and she didn't even notice I was there. And she was like, that's when I noticed that she was like, really, there's something wrong with her. And I said her name. She didn't even hear me. And I leaned right behind her, and I'm like, what is she doing? And my eyes cleared up, and I saw like statements, just phone the police. And I shook my head. Phone the police, what? And then I read up, and she had basically told this guy, Micah, that we both knew, who she wanted to be with, that I had her hostage locked up in a room, and she was kidnapped, and she needed a way to escape. And she was basically trying to get him to say, like, why don't you just come here to me? But he had a girlfriend in Russia. I don't know if she was fully aware of it. Anyway, and I was like shocked. And I was like completely freaked out by this. So I messaged Micah. I said, listen, Micah, I don't know what's going on, but something weird going on here. What's going on here? The story, because like I wake up, she's like smoking in my room in where we sleep, and the house is wide open, and she's having a bit of an episode. I'm not sure what's been going on, but it's obviously nonsense. And then the next day she said, well, I'm going to leave. I said, yeah, great. Leave. So she booked her ticket to the UK, and it was like a week and a half, a week, whatever, till the flight. And I was like, well, good. I'm happy for you. And then it was coming to a point close to full moon, and I went and I detached myself from her completely, energetically. Like you could call it a psychic surgery, whatever you want to call it, because there was this narcissistic sociopathic thing going on where she was going to a friend and making up lies and this weird shit. I thought, like, you know what? I don't want to actually have anything to do with this woman. I want to detach completely. Whatever has happened to she's not the ethical, decent, honest, honorable human being that I knew. I need to cut this now. And I cut the energy between us, and I was clear. And I was like finally at peace. And then she had a breakdown.
Did you have? And you said you did. The moon has something to do with.
It
Psych-
just happened to be getting towards a high full lunar energy. It was a good time to do the work that I did.
So lunar energy helps you energetically detach.
It's just a high energy time.
Okay, it's just high
It's
energy
a
in
high
there.
and powerful energy time,
Okay.
and it's a great time for like renewal. And
Okay.
so I was doing the cutting of the cords, which they would then do a full cycle of the lunar, giving me 14 days to digest, and then the new moon would be the regeneration of the starting of the new cycle energy. But then the next day she came and freaked out at me.
Hmm.
She was like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's happened. Like I can't feel you anymore. It's like you're gone." She was freaking out. I
Hmm.
said, "Well, what's the problem?" She was like, "But I can't feel you anymore." She couldn't feel me in her heart anymore. I said, "Well, it's just because I've just removed the connection. That's all. It's better this way. You're going home. We can both move on with our lives. What I witnessed with you and Maiko was not something I want to be connected to anymore. I don't want to be um, I don't want to be in this story anymore. You were deceitful, you were dishonest, you were deceitful to him. You were trying to steal this man away from his girlfriend because you know she's in Russia and you know he hasn't seen her in a long time. And you were trying to play on his feelings towards you, and you were happy to do me harm in order to get what you wanted from him because you wanted him to tell you to come back to where he was at that time in Mexico so that you could be with him. And that's fine. If you want to be with him, good luck being with him. But I don't want to be involved in this story anymore.
Hmm.
Ethics, you know me. Ethics is my middle name. That's not how I live my life. I can't be involved in this kind of dynamic. So she cried and she begged and she cried and she begged for like 4 or 5 days. Please, please, can I stay? Please, please, can I stay? Please, can we give it another chance? I said, look, it is what it is. The decision's been made. You made your choice. This is where we're at. And she cried and she begged and she cried and she begged and she cried and she begged and I didn't have the heart to like basically force her to go and get on the plane and go. So I was like, look, she was like nervous. She was like on the edge of having a breakdown. And so I was like, okay, stay, whatever, it's all fine. And then I started thinking, what am I going to do now? So then my thought was, oh, if I go with her to the UK, then she can figure out what she wants to do because her family's there and like we're close to her family. So I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll go to the UK together. I'll come with you.
Hmm.
And then I went to the UK and we got there and I said, dude, do you want to go? No, no, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. I want to stay with you. I love you. I love you. I want to stay with you. And, she always used to gaze at me and stare at me my whole life, like most of my life, and say, like, wow, you're the bravest man I've ever known, always.
Okay.
So it's like maybe she realized that she would never find another man like me again.
Hmm.
I think she did the math
Yeah.
because, like, I always put her first, and no matter what, I mean, she
Hmm.
gets taken out to sea in impossible odds, and I go out and fetch her. Like other guys wouldn't do that because, like you're not coming back alive from that. Like, come on, man. This isn't. It's not a beach. It's a continental shelf. Like the fishermen don't even get out of their boats there. Fishermen get taken out in their boats and never get seen again. So, um, you know, she had like realized, been with me for a long time, and realized that like I would like, you know, do basically anything for her, and I would always be honest, and I would always be, you know, she could always trust me. And maybe that's like, might not sound like a lot, but I think it's like it's a lot in this day and age. And so she obviously realized she's never going to get another man that's going to be as like faithful and honest and, you know, sacrifice whatever. And so I was like, okay, we can give this another chance. And that's when my friend passed away. And that's when I mentioned to you, I went into a trance and the ancestors came and the guides came. And then the spirits of those that were not alive came and they were spinning around me and spinning around me and spinning around me. And they were all whispering at me. And then I in a trance, channeled and I said, my closest friend in the world just died. Ha 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 ha. You know, and it freaked her the hell out. And I was completely blind drunk. I never drink. I never drink. The one night I drink, I go into this crazy trance, and I've got the spirits of the, like, you know, Hades. I'm in Hades basically, and I see like my closest friend. I make a prophecy, and I'm coming out of this drunkenness, and I'm like having this terrible hangover because I've like it's the one time I drink. I never ever drink. I was cooking food with an Italian couple that was housemates with us where we were living in South London. And I had a bottle of red wine. I opened a bottle of red wine. I'd drink a bit of red wine if I made nice pasta, but I'd have like one or two glasses. I never drank past one or two glasses of wine if I was eating, right? I never drank without sitting down to have a meal because I didn't like the feeling of alcohol in my body, of inebriation. If I wanted to feel different, I would use something else, right? Not alcohol. But I enjoyed a glass of red wine with a rich mushroom cheesy pasta, creamy pasta, for example,
Yeah.
and or a risotto. I think I was making a risotto at that time,
Okay.
and I think it was a risotto. Was it a pasta or risotto? I forget. And so Italian couple came and like I was like, drink some wine with us. Have you guys got plans for supper? Just so it turns out I'm making enough food that it's going to be enough for all of us. So join us. And they were like, oh, that's so cool. We didn't really know them that well. They were friends of my other friends. And so it was a big house in South London. Myself and my ex-wife were there, and my close friend of mine, Antama, Anthony, he's the mother of his child, and their little Aurora, they were there. He wasn't there at the time. He was staying elsewhere. And then this other couple was a friends of hers from Portugal
Yeah.
that had come to spend some time there. They were going to move out and get their own place, but there was a spare room, and they were staying in the spare room while they were there. So like it was all good. It was Aurora's bedroom, but like they were staying in there for like a month or whatever. And so anyway, they were a lovely couple. And I got drunk, and then after that, I had this. We had a temple room downstairs, and in the temple, I went into the temple when I was drunk for some reason. It was where we practiced our sadhana. She wouldn't meditate anymore with me, but Anthony, my friend, and Tama and I used to go in there, and we used to have shamanic drumming sessions and sound circles and meditation and mantra and such. He's an adept from a Vedic society at the moment, and he's with Amma. You know Amma. He's one of her disciples. Anyway, so I was suffering from this hangover, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was recovering, and I was like realizing who it was. It's Alex. Has Alex died? I was like, no. And I just couldn't shake this out of my head. And the hangover lasted a whole day. And the next day I still had a bit of a hangover because, like I say, I'm not used to alcohol. and had that bottle of wine. The other couple went down to the road to the shop, came back with 2 bottles of wine. We drank those 2 bottles of wine. I was like, oh, I felt bad, man. We drank. I better go and get another bottle of wine. I went to get another bottle of wine. They got another bottle of wine.
Mm. Mm.
Did they end up having another 2 bottles of wine? I don't know. But anyway, somewhere along the line, we must have drank about 5 bottles of wine,
Yeah.
6 bottles of wine, and myself and the other guy, we drank most of it
Yeah.
because there were 2 women.
Mm.
So, like, I must have had about 2 bottles of wine, which for somebody who doesn't drink is just too much, you know?
Yeah. That's a lot.
And so, anyway, um, and smoking.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness.
don't do things in half doses, dude. So
Yeah. Jesus.
so anyway, um, anyway, I was trying to get a hold of my friend, and I couldn't get a hold of my friend. I couldn't get a hold of him, and it was getting so bad. And the next day, I sent out a message to all of our friends. I was like, "Listen, I'm afraid for his life. I don't know if he's alive. Please, if there's any of you out there, can you please put his mother in contact with me? I had her number, but I've lost it. I really need to speak to Alex's mother because I'm at the point of going to his house to kick down the door."
Mm-hmm.
He never didn't take my calls. He was like my closest friend in the world, you know, was like my bestie.
Mm-hmm.
And our birthday was on the same day. He was a highly advanced. He was a powerful person. He was like probably the most revered and loved activist in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
All different kinds of activism. His heart was in the right place. He was a genuine person. He was honest. He was integrous. He was decent. He was ethical. He was rational. You've got some of the qualities that he had, like that level-headed, slow mind. Take your time, think it through. He had that kind of mind. He was an engineer. He was a really, really beautiful soul. So anyway, and just a really down-to-earth, honest, simple, good guy that was wise in his own, own domain. And then finally I got like hearing back from people saying, well, how do you know this? I said, listen, you guys know that I'm a shaman. You know the story. I don't want to get into it with you, but let's just say I've had a premonition and I'm freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like the usual people going, well, don't worry. It's just Alex, he's so together. He's the most together person we all know. I'm sure he's fine. I was like, yeah, I just want to speak to his mom. Finally, one of our network, close circle of like maybe about 10, 12 people who were really knew him well, got back to me and said, here's his mom's contact. And I called her and immediately she said, oh my God, you feel it too. I haven't been able to sleep for about 4 days. I said, yeah, 4 days, 3 days. By that stage, it was like 4 days. By the time I got hold of her, I said, that's about the timeline. I said, I'm going to go to his house and kick down the door. Do I have your blessing? She said, yes, you got my blessing. So I got on the bus to go to his place. And as when I decided to go to his house, he was there with me. I was like, what are you doing here? Go and get in your body. I'm coming to fetch you. And he was like, explaining to me, nah, it's broken. I mean, what do you mean it's broken? Get in there, fix it. Nah, it's done. It's broken. And so he was with me the whole time. And I was like, holy shucks. So I got to his flat and I knew there was a body in there. My heart is beating. And I was like nervous. I was like freaked out. I just had to go and see for myself. And as I got there, another 2 friends who knew him well arrived at the same time. The very same minute that I arrived there, they arrived there. Synchronicity. And they're like, what are the odds of us arriving when you arrived? I said, like, I've been manifesting this moment now for like 3 days. That's the odds. I'm going to go and kick down that door. And the one lady, she said, why didn't you just call the cops? I thought about it. So I buzzed the building, and I knew the people in the building because I used to come visit him. He was very private. Not many people came to visit him. I was the only friend that came to his flat because he knew so many people. Everybody knew him, but I was the only one who would come to his flat. I actually stayed with him for a while. I was a housemate with him for a while. Like, we were really close. The other people, he kept them more at arm's length. So this other couple hadn't really been into his flat, or they couldn't really go and visit him. But like, you can't say no to me. I'm not the guy who takes no for an answer. I'm like, Alex, what do you mean I can't come visit you? You tell me that when I'm at the door. Okay, see you in 20 minutes. Just leave me out in the rain. It's cool. We're good to go. So, like, and then I get to his flat and I'd say, dude, this flat needs a clean. I'd start cleaning his flat. He'd be like, no, dude, you can't clean my flat, because he was like a bit of a pack rat, and he was trying to do too much recycling and stuff. Like, come on, man, dude, this is ridiculous, man. We've got to like clear this crap out. And I'd clear out his flat, and he always felt bad. And he was maybe a bit embarrassed because he lived on his own, you know. And but he was holding on to a lot, and yeah, so the cops came and kicked down the door, and his body was there. And after that, she had another breakdown, and she blamed it on me. She was like, you could have known before. You're the reason he's dead. And what do you say to that? You know,
Yeah.
because she'd witnessed all sorts of stuff with me over the years, like that kind of stuff. So, like, you know, you could know about all sorts of other stuff before the time, but you couldn't know about that. And so it drove more of a wedge between us. And then I picked up all of my friend's activist work.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of things that was unfinished. I thought, I'm not leaving your works unfinished. I'm going to finish every work that you were doing for you, so you can move. I had that conversation with him because he was there with me. I said, dude, I'm picking up your tabs. You just go and sort your shit out. I'm picking up your tabs there. Don't worry. It's all good. I'm going to hang out with your mom. I'm going to make sure she's okay. You know?
Yeah.
And so I picked up all these activist loose ends, and I started working on those projects.
Good.
And one of the loose ends was the Festival of Life.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah.
That got us to the point where she left me.
Oh.
Finally. Mm-hmm. But your daughter's calling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're awake for sure. Yeah. No, beautiful, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That was really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Alex.
Rest in peace, man. Okay. I think that's good. We should continue next time.
Big love to you, brother.
You too, man.
Take it easy, and I hope little Sunshine Sparkles is having a good morning.
Yeah, I'm looking
hope
forward
mom's
to
well.
Yeah,
I hope you guys are all well. Send my love.
Same to you, man. Same to you.
And to you, of course. And big love, man. Big blessings. So thank you all for being with us. Oh, it's almost 2 hours. Hope you enjoyed the fireside talks. There's fire here. It's too hot for a fire here. But big love, big blessings, peace, honor, and respect. Take it easy. Keep smiling. Keep the dream alive. Om Shanti.
Take care, everybody.